But college campuses in particular have become vile incubators of hatred of Jews.
Senator Cruz.
Anti-Semitism is a unique historic form of evil, and over millennia it is manifested in violence, mass murder, and genocide. October 7th was one of the darkest days in human history when terrorists murdered over 1,200 Israelis and took 251 hostages. Women and girls were raped. It was the single largest mass murder of Jews in a day since the Holocaust. In the wake of October 7th, we have seen anti-Semitism explode across the United States and across the world, but especially on college campuses. As the ADL has illustrated, from 2022 to 2023, the number of anti-Semitic incidents more than doubled in the United States. But college campuses in particular have become vile incubators of hatred of Jews. At Cornell University, in the aftermath of October 7th, one student made vile threats, including statements such as, "If I see a pygmalion Jew, I will stab you and slit your throat. If I see another female Jew, I will drag you away and rape you and throw you off a cliff." A student organization at California State University, Long Beach, circulated a flyer calling for a, quote, day of resistance in celebration of October 7th. You will note on the flyer is an image of a person parachuting with a fan attached, a direct reference to and a glorification of Hamas terrorists that used gliders to descend upon a music festival and murder 260 innocent people and take many more hostages. At Columbia University, the situation got so bad that the Orthodox rabbi on campus, Rabbi L.A. Buechler, had to make this public statement. Columbia University's public safety cannot guarantee Jewish students' safety in the face of extreme anti-Semitism and anarchy. It deeply pains me to say that I would strongly recommend you return home. This was directed to Jewish students as soon as possible and remain home. The rabbi had every reason to be concerned. At Columbia's campus, individuals yelled, "We love Hamas, we're all Hamas, long live Hamas." At the University of Washington, the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors was told that she was called names, she was spit at, she was laughed at. She said she no longer felt safe on campus, and she was told to go back to the gas chambers. This is sick and horrific. At Columbia, when Jewish students were engaged in displaying the American flag and the Israeli flag, another student wearing a mask because these protesters are oh so brave, they almost always cover their face, held up a handwritten sign saying Al-Qassam's next target. Al-Qassam is the military arm of Hamas. According to social media, this particular student is a wealthy student from Georgia. She's not Palestinian, but she has been taught lies and hatred, and she feels perfectly comfortable advocating the murder of her fellow students at Columbia. At MIT, students have reported they feel unsafe to go to class. And the MIT president has said that she would not discipline the students making those threats because if she did, they risk losing their visas and being deported. Throughout all of this, the Biden-Harris administration has been utterly absent. Does anyone doubt if the Klan were on college campuses terrorizing African-American students, threatening African-American students, that we would see the FBI there, that we would see prosecutors there, that we would see federal funding cut off to universities? Of course we would, and we should. But when it comes to anti-Semitism, the Democrats have a problem. I would note, this is occurring in blue states with blue governors because the Democrat Party is terrified of the pro-Hamas wing of their party. In states like Texas and Florida, we don't allow this. At the University of Texas, when violent protesters threatened Jewish students, police officers arrived and arrested them. That's what happened when you enforce the law. Every Republican member of this committee asked the chairman to hold a hearing on anti-Semitism in February. And yet we don't get a hearing on anti-Semitism. We get a hearing generically on hate because this administration, and this is the kind of anger and hate that is encouraged. You're now seeing the hate manifesting right here. Interestingly enough,
Please, the committee will come to order. The senator is recognized to finish his remarks.
So we now have a demonstration of anti-Semitism. We have a demonstration of the hate. Rabbi Goldfelder, let me ask you, has the Biden administration cut off the funding of any of the colleges that have allowed this hate? Have they indicted anyone for funding these violent protests? Have they indicted the people paying for the matching tents? Or have they sat there silently, and have the universities sat there silently while their students are terrified to go to class?
They have not indicted anyone.
They have not indicted anyone. Has any university had their funding cut off for allowing this sort of violent intimidation?
Not a single university.
I can tell you this. Next year, if there is a Republican
expired.
majority on this committee, you will see real leadership. And next year, if there's a Republican administration, you will see people prosecuted for this sort of violence. This is being tolerated with the looking away, the blind eye being turned from this administration and this Department of Justice. And it is utterly disgraceful. And under Title VI, any university that allows this should have their funding cut off.
Senator's time has expired. I would make a note for the record. This hearing is about hate. It includes anti-Semitism as well as hatred towards other people. I would also point out that the previous chair of the committee from the other side of the table didn't hold a single hearing on anti-Semitism or hate crimes. I've held multiple hearings addressing this subject since becoming chair, including a hearing shortly after the January 15th, 2022 synagogue hostage crisis in Colleyville, Texas, which featured testimony from the synagogue's rabbi. Senator Welch.
Thank you. Thank you for holding this hearing. The senator from Texas, I was with you in your indictment of all those horrendous anti-Semitic things that happened. You lost me when it seemed like you veered into a blame game. I think every single one of us here is horrified about hatred and violence towards a person because of what they believe or who they are. Now, in Vermont, we're pretty proud of being a tolerant state, but we have suffered significantly with anti-Semitic activity. It's horrifying. One of the things that's really terrifying to me is that when folks want to go to their synagogue, they have to have police security. You know, when I grew up going to Holy Name Grammar School, we didn't know what that was. We just went to church. And in Vermont, we had 3 young Palestinian men who were home visiting a grandmother for Thanksgiving. They were out walking. They were speaking Arabic. They had on a keffiyeh. They got shot. They got shot. I'm horrified at what has happened to them. I am horrified at the anti-Semitic escalation towards wonderful Vermonters who are Jews and what they have to endure and the insecurity that they feel. So my view here is that let's acknowledge every single one of us is horrified about the expression of hatred towards a Jew, towards a Muslim, towards an Arab, and try to figure out how best we can act. And that does include enforcement. But I have observed that any issue out there that can become a partisan issue often does. My view, that's not a solution. You know, I speak to some Vermonters from the Jewish community, so horrified, as we all are, about what happened, what Hamas did on October 7th. We have a teacher who had a student and was killed on October 7th, and she posted about it and suffered enormous online harassment. But when we had these 3 college boys who were just home for Thanksgiving, and they got shot. I mean, all of us are absolutely horrified by that. And people who commit crimes, particularly hate crimes, they should be punished. But that should be, whether it's on campus, whether it's on the streets of Burlington, whether it's at a synagogue, we all have that obligation. Because that hatred is so corrosive to all of us and to our society. And if we, as a society, can't accept the collective responsibility that we each have for the well-being of one another, then it's not going to work. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the hearing, and I want to thank the witnesses, because you're struggling with it day by day. You're trying to help us find a way forward. But it's not going to be just a law that we pass. It's not just an indictment that we prosecute, and those things should be done. But it's going to be much more a collective responsibility that we have as citizens to one another. And let me just ask each of you, what do you think? What have